If you've ever asked the universe for some kind of sign and got it clear as day, what was it and how did it go? Before we start with the video, comment your answer. Like, share, subscribe and turn on notification bell. When my mom died, I was pretty destroyed. We were very close. I was feeling like I couldn't understand how to live in the world without her. One day I was driving home from work, depressed as hell, and I started thinking how much I'd love it if I could get a sign from her, surprising myself a bit, as I'm not at all religious and am highly skeptical about things like signs from the universe. But I missed her so much that I mentally asked the universe for a sign. She really loved birds, so I thought, wouldn't it be cool if it came in the form of a bird? Maybe a sparrow, or even a pigeon or something. I got home, parked my car, and walked up the path to the cottage I was renting. This was in the city of Berkeley, California. As I was unlocking the front door, off to the side a flash of color caught my eye. I turned to look, and it was a Chinese pheasant. I had no idea what it was, I had to look it up, but if you Google Chinese pheasants, you'll see why I was so blown away. It was brilliantly colored, with gold on its head and back, orange and black bars on its neck, bright red chest and blue on its wings, the most psychedelic bird I've ever seen. And it was standing on my front porch, a bird native to fucking China. I had no clue how the hell it could even be there. I thought I had to be dreaming, so I got my neighbor to come see it. We stared at it with our jaws hanging open. Then it sort of squawked and flew away. And it hit me that I had asked my mom the universe for a sign, thinking maybe a drab little sparrow or a pigeon, and what I got was a bird that was ridiculously over the top, and it was exactly the kind of joke my mom would have loved. I'm still skeptical and not religious and don't believe in fairies, but that was weird and also great. I was in the depths of despair. I had lost my great job, had to travel 2 hours every day with heavy tools each way to a temporary job I was doing. Sitting on the bus, thinking my world was over, and it all kind of got to me all at once, and I began to tear up, not wanting to bawl my eyes out in public. I held it in. So I asked for something, anything that could show me that life wasn't worthless. A lady I didn't see must have how bad I was, or maybe it was just coincidence, but just after I cried out in my head, I heard the words "everything is going to be okay." It saved my life. Edit. I had no idea that this would affect you all so much. Sometimes it might be dark, and a small spark starts a fire. Sometimes you're the small spark. Be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you for the awards too. I can now give awards to others. Similar story. Stuck in a horrific job, eating myself to death at McDonald's. I was having a particularly shitty day, and my boss had screamed at me and the other technicians over something that she, the boss, had. I must have been looking extra miserable because this little old lady comes in. She notices me sitting at a table alone and smiles. She simply says, "Hey, don't let him win." It cut to my core. How could she know my fight? It's like she saw right through my defenses and nailed my situation. A little while later she was leaving with her food and she smiled again and said, "Have a nice day." And I smiled back and told her, "Thank you, you too." So that's been my mantra ever since, don't let him win. It's simple, but it got me out of that situation. My nan passed. He went to see a fortune teller who told him that anytime our family sees white feathers around, that's nan's way of showing us that she's there. I thought it was a load of and forgot about it. A few years later I was at a music festival. Everything was coated in dirt and dust being churned up by thousands of people's feet. Even the air was so thick with dust it was making it hard to see and breathe. I was on the edges of the mosh pit when I started to have my first panic attack. I'd never had one before, didn't know what was happening to me, and I was terrified. I felt like I was being crushed and like I was the only person in the world at the same time. I remember desperately thinking, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be here alone. I crouched down in the middle of the dirty, dusty crown, and when I opened my eyes there was a single white feather on the ground right between my feet. It was perfectly white, no dirt, not stepped on or anything in a mosh pit. I stared at the feather until I could get my breathing under control and get out of there, and I still have that feather. Did you tell your uncle about your experience? But are you a little stitious? Edit. You guys, I've never gotten an award before and I am so excited. Thanks for everyone who got my humor. I was walking. What would have been a 4-hour drive and I was walking. I straight up begged for a car to stop and pick me up, and literally seconds later a woman stopped who was traveling all the way to where I was heading. Same town. 4 hours away. What are those odds? Similar thing happened to me. A guy picked me up when I was hitchhiking and was going to drop me off at the train station so I could catch a coach to my hometown 4 hours away. As we were chatting we realized we were heading to the same town. He was a delivery driver doing drop-offs along the way. He offered for me to stay with him in the car. I helped him map out his deliveries, and he bought me a pub feed and dropped me off outside my parents' place and came in for a cuppa and met them. Nice. That's a good hitchhiking story. It can be dangerous too though. I don't recommend for just anybody. I gave a guy a ride in the city once. It was after midnight. He had me drop him off in a rural area I didn't know, so he ends up directing me to a closed-down grocery store in the middle of nowhere. No houses anywhere within sight this place. I pulled into a gas station directly in front of the grocery store. The gas station was closed, but I knew they had cameras rolling all the time, and it was lit like daytime. He was insisting that I drop him off behind it. Even tried to bribe me with some CDs and crap he had, said we could hang out for a bit. Now look, maybe this guy just lonely and wanted company. Maybe he didn't want to walk from the gas station. Maybe he wanted to do something crazy. I don't know, but the environment had me very uneasy and I followed my gut on that one. The more insistent he got about me driving around the back of the grocery store, the more insistent I became that I wasn't going to, and the ride was over right here. And nothing really came of it. He hopped out and thanked me for the ride. Scared the hell out of me. I really don't like my job, and I've been daydreaming about what I could do. I just needed a place to be able to do it. The next day I get offered to house sit for a couple years in this big Japanese house that has a storefront in the front. There's a perfect space to do what I would want to do. I would live rent-free and be able to save up to buy my own business visa here. I wouldn't need to work in this job anymore. Sounds great, good for you. Make sure there is no one in the basement. Edit. Yes, I know it's in Korea, but I guess it could happen in Japan too, you never know. This wasn't really asking for a sign, but I was going through a lot and in a really shitty and dark place, like the kind of place I honestly wasn't sure I'd survive. I was teetering on the edge of despair and genuinely going down the path towards doing something insanely drastic. I basically just asked the universe for help one day while in the middle of another crying episode, and I had this strange sunny feeling kind of leak into the darkness I was harboring inside of me. The next day, by chance, I met my group of friends on a video game I played regularly at the time. They lived in an entirely different city and had entirely different lives from me, but we all just clicked. It took a month or two for me to settle into that friendship and understand that they were gonna stick around, and they've been my best friends for 3 years now. Some of my best memories are from that first summer that I knew them. I genuinely don't think I would have survived that time in my life had I not met them. I was feeling incredibly alone, and I was trying to come to terms with a lot of things all at once. I'm infinitely grateful for them, and I can't help but think that the universe was listening that day when, as a last-ditch effort, I asked it for help. People often underestimate the usefulness of video games beyond mere entertainment. I moved away from my hometown, and my best friend still lives there. One of our greatest ways of bonding is playing video games together. All my life, whenever I went to the beach I had wanted to find an intact sand dollar. I had found lots of pieces, but never a whole one. When I was in my mid-30s, I went with a group of friends to the coast. I was walking alone along the beach in the moonlight close to midnight. I was feeling very sorry for myself in the dark and really lonely, even though I was with my friends that weekend. I had just started thinking the thought, wouldn't it be a great sign right now to know that I'm loved if I finally found a sand dollar? I had barely formed the thought when I looked down, and right at my feet was an intact sand dollar. Universe told your insecurities, I'm gonna pay you $1 sand dollar to fuck off. The universe was pulling a Ricky. I got home from my best friend's funeral, the whole time sitting in the funeral home asking him or God for a sign. When I got home I turned on the TV, and his favorite song was playing on Much Music. I'm currently worried about my best friend. Honestly, being my only friend that could just kick open the door, say what's up fuckers type stuff. It's annoying to see him going down this path of drinking because of some personal stuff in his life. But I hope you're doing well, also not a friggin' idiot. Kick down his door in return. Having a good time sober is a lot easier with friends. I had a friend whose cousin committed suicide on Christmas Day back in 2011. For about a month after he was still taking it hard, and I mean, I get it, the loss of a loved one isn't easy, and suicide just makes it worse. I told him to pack his because he's moving into my apartment for a while, just to give him time and space to clear his mind. That next month he went back to being his normal inappropriate joke-making self, and honestly feel like he was going down a dark road if he had stayed home. Sadly lost my friend in 2015 to testicular cancer though.